Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to TFC Live Season 3, Episode 15. It's time for a revolution. And tonight we've had some admins who are dealing with some real life stuff, so unfortunately they're not able to join us. But I did ask David, aka Venom, to join me tonight. So hello, David, how are you?
Good evening, I'm very well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Little bit rushed.
Just a little bit.
Yep. Okay, so let's just go ahead and dive right in here. Let me see if I can get this to work. Okay, Season 3, Episode 15. Tonight's slide deck obviously is all about the Revolution raid. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Of course, this is a tech store raid, which means that it is a longer than normal. It runs from the 12th through until the 18th. And of course, we have a lot more prizes than we normally do. Starting times are as per normal. They will go ahead and disable relocation, sector threat, base parts, so on and so forth, right when your world starts. There have been a couple of questions about that. If you're in a higher world, you can't jump to a lower world once their world has started the raid. Just a reminder that you can still get resources from the expeditions during the raid. So if you want to send out a fleet at the beginning of the raid for like base parts or something like that, then you can go ahead and have them show up halfway through. We also have a new lion badge for the raid that you can see there. It's pretty, I actually like that one. What about you, David?
That's quite nice. It is pretty good.
Yep. And
Yeah.
of course, that ties into the lion equipment for the new hull that we'll be going through here in just a couple of minutes. Tier 8 targets. Again, these are the campaign tower targets. They're limited to the Tier 7 hulls. Very difficult targets with the high payout. Of note here, you get 5 million points for completing it. You get 2 million for the damage and then 3 million for the completion, and that's for each target. So if you do both the Buccaneers Boon and the Hydra's Morass, you will go ahead and get 5 million for each. And then if you do both of them, there is the 2 million completion bonus. Actually happy with that. They did that last time. Like the fact that you can still use just one hull and rack up a whole lot of points and not be in a position where the bonus outweighs the points for the target.
Yeah, it is quite a nice reward to get, and based off last raid, if you're doing the top tier targets, you're going to finish your raid pretty quickly. And it's definitely a good way forward to go.
Yes, very, very happy with that. And then, of course, we still have last month's targets that are out on the map. They're listed as the 101s. They pay 1,500 each, but of course, there is no points bonus for finishing those. Okay, moving on to Tier 7. This is kind of like the A sets or the 80s targets. Again, recommended fleets for those are the Buccaneer or the Hydra. Must be a siege fleet or a generalist of at least Tier 7. So if you are prepping for somebody, they cannot just bring in a gunboat. They have to bring in a siege fleet, whether it be a ironclad or a canoe or something like that. Tier 6, the 60 sets, same payouts for those. Recommended fleets for those, of course, are the Cannoneers and the Ironclads. The Ironclads did really well and have continued to excel on those targets, which I think is kind of a really good thing because that allows lower to mid players who may not have their fleets finished to be able to run those in the background. And then we've got Tier 5 targets. Recommended fleets there are canoes and the Ironclads. No restrictions on those. And then, of course, we have the obligatory blitz targets. You can blitz up to 10 times for those. There's level 89. That one's going to pay 800,000 points. The minimum blitz cost for that is 5 gold. And then we've got the level 69. The recommended hull for that is Ironclads and Cannoneers. And I believe the blitz for that is 1 gold. And that one pays 125 points. Okay, moving on to the top prize. Of course, this is the Manticore Hull. This is the new hull, Tier 7 for the Assault Raid that is coming up. Just of note for this one, if you've missed the last couple of shows or did not catch Rampage reports, they're moving to a single hull raid format, as in that we are supposed to be doing one hull and then you equip it based on your driving style. And my understanding is the line equipment is kind of the bull in a china shop, and then the Scorpion equipment, which is missiles, is kind of the more finesse and precision driving. So the line equipment, we'll be looking at that today. That's available in this raid. And then the Scorpion equipment will be available in after the raid in a TLC. We do not know when that TLC will take place. Okay, moving on to the Manticore Hull. David, you want to chat about this a little?
Sure. The first thing I would like to note is just how expensive the hull is to make itself. The previous hulls for the last raids were about 50 million resources each. It's jumped up to 200 million this time, so you may want to start collecting as soon as possible, just for the resources. Just a heads up on that. The ship itself doesn't look terribly bad. There is anti-missile range and accuracy, so obviously we're going to have to be shooting missiles down. I'd say it's going to be similar sort of target type of structure as the last time. So things like your switchblade and phalanx will be handy here. The the rest of the stats seem kind of standard for what we've seen over the last couple of raid cycles. It's standard 45 defenses. Tactical field resistance of 70% has a little bit of interest for me anyway. So I'd be looking to that, sort of seeing some slowdown fields, something like that. If not, the tactical fields that we've seen in this siege raid, I'd say there's something definitely similar coming there. And then we've got structure DPS and ship DPS, really high ship DPS. So again, looking back at the last assault targets, where you've got more ships running at you and less buildings, I'd say it's going to be sort of similar to that. So yeah, I'd be building more of a ship DPS build. Just looking at the stats of the ship alone.
Yeah, a couple things that I noticed on this. First off is the simplicity of the stats. Now I know there's a CIC, but I just thought it was a lot less stuff that we're used to seeing on the blueprints, and it's pretty obvious, where this is headed and directed, and so I'm kind of liking that. Again, the assault targets are, I'm probably going to butcher this, corrosive and penetrative. So when you're looking at the builds for this, don't forget that you want to take a look at, I think it was a alloy com, I think the name of the alloy is com alloy or something like that, that gives the bonuses for defense for both corrosive and for penetrative. So keep an eye out for that guy that was put out there. The repair time seems to be pretty much standard at the 3 hours that we're used to. Build time, 4 hours, 5 days. That's if you don't have any friends build time. So that seems to be pretty standard. And I threw a couple of builds together just playing around while I was waiting for the prize list to come out, and I think I came up at like 18 or 19 days, and that was if I was using full charged armor.
Yep. The only thing that really sticks out for me at the moment is the resource cost, which I would probably put forward to Kexeye. Doesn't look right. Looks almost standard for the Conqueror class
hulls. Yeah.
hulls. Other than that, it looks pretty standard, and other than that, CIC, which is it's going to be what you base your hull around. So, yeah, it will be interesting.
Yeah. So The interesting thing is, are we looking at charged armors? Of course, the corrosive and the penetrative, the M armor is available in the FM, but, are we really needing those, or are we looking at going back to, the straight defense model? I don't know. So that's something I guess we'll have to wait and see when we see the targets. And usually if they follow the normal process, the targets that come out for VXP is kind of like the first iteration of the target for the new cycle. So if they follow that, the VXP target that we should see should be something along the lines of what we would be gearing towards for the next raid cycle.
Yep. Just on the charged armor, looking at the last raid specifically, what they did with the targets there was your charged armor became less important than your actual defense stat came into.
Resistances, yeah.
So it looks almost like they're trying to move away from the requirement of having charged armor, being more of a luxury. But we'll just have to see what the targets bring out. It may just be the ramp up in damage for the cycle progression.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so that's the Manticore Hull. Moving on now to the start of the line equipment. Again, this is the first grouping. There's this one's available. All of these are available in this raid, and then the missile version thereof will be the Scorpion will be available in the next raid. This is the Roaring Barrel system. Boost multi-shot corrosive damage and reload of any equipped scattergun. It is a chubby one at 23%. We're looking at +3 for multi-shot, scattergun reload at 60%, corrosive damage at 30, and then it also gives a bit of a combat boost.
There's an interesting stat there, +6 for heavy.
Yeah, that is. I was kind of looking at that, and I'm trying to think of.
I'm wondering if they mean critical for that. So a critical shot being a heavier shot, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't actually seen a heavy stat thrown in anywhere before.
Yeah, we'll have to.
May just need a little bit of clarification for that one.
Yeah, we'll have to find out about that. That is an interesting stat. I will say that the artwork again, the design team has rocked it. This is a really cool looking special. Okay, moving on now to the Panthera Scattergun. This is the new Scattergun, devastating ship-mounted scattergun. This weapon uses multi-mounted warheads to deliver a payload of corrosive and penetrative damage onto anything in its range. At about 830 tons, looking at a damage type of about 5,000. It does have wall and building damage as well, not as high as normal. Reload time 8 seconds, but what I did like is this has kind of got a high multi-shot.
Yeah, and you're stacking on the multi-shot from the special, so it's going to be firing rather quickly by the looks of it.
Yeah.
The interesting stat there is the building and wall damage, again, you pointed out, was quite low from what we've seen previously, which we're probably looking more into a variation of last assault targets where ships are going to be chasing you again. So I'd like to be moving for a more speedy build this time, if that was any advice.
Yeah, the range on this one too is 89, I think that is. It's got a big spread, but very small splash.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also has a +4% corrosive defense as well to add to your defense as well for each one of those.
Yeah, if you try and build a little bit lighter with your specials and stick more of these on, I think you might last a little bit longer.
Yep. I did notice though that it is only 830. We're not seeing the over 1,000 tons that we have been for some of the other newer weapons that we've been seeing recently.
But we do have a CIC to put on.
Yep. And Iris, to answer your question, the damage types for assault raids are corrosive and penetrative. Okay, so moving on to the Savage CIC. Scourge have designed a CIC to be the ultimate tool in rush-down warfare. Again, that's kind of hinting towards the scatter version is a charge in and and start killing stuff. Provides a substantial boost to offense and defenses at the cost of range. Equip this CIC if you want to get in close and rip your enemies apart.
This was one of the things I was quite nervous about when we last spoke about the upcoming raid. I was hoping for the skill hull to be out this time, or the skill variation to be out first. This version seems that you're going to take more damage, but you have the time to build it. But the one that comes out in the TLC will be the less damage version during the raid, but it's going to cost you more to build it in time. So I'd take a very serious look into what way you like to drive and if you'll have the available tokens or coin to make the preferred choice. But that -10 was a concern at the start.
Yeah, and the other question is, are we, the Scorpion equipment, what's that going to look like? So it's, I guess the biggest question is, when is that next TLC coming out? If it comes out relatively early to where you could win the Scorpion stuff to be able to use that for the first raid cycle, or are we going to be in a position where we load it up, build it with the Scorpion, and then have to refit over to build it with the Lion scatter stuff and then refit to the Scorpion missile?
Yeah. The only thing I can think of that may be good with this is the slight off chance that we may get a flagship for this variation, or at least a CIC, which will give you the healing effect, a bit like the auto hull. So the boon for this siege variation.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised, if there isn't a flagship for this.
Yeah, I'd like to be hopeful that it's going to have a healing variation, especially when you've got that -10, so you're going to be taking more damage as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, so special abilities on this one, again, duplicate aura cap. I can talk. Duplicate aura cap of 5 gives a bit of a combat boost, turn speed boost, adds structure deflection, and is cold snap immune, and also gives ship deflection. Okay, so that's the Savage CIC. Again, that 2,800 tons, so chubby, but not overboard like some of the older ones. So again, this goes with the line equipment, and it may actually work with the Scorpion equipment as well because it's got that penetrative damage boost.
Yep. It's
okay.
A lot to do with your playstyle.
Yep. The other one that popped up today in the shipyard and in the notes is Poseidon's Mauler. This flagship Conqueror is a hybrid created by Brennus himself. The hull features bonuses to both penetrative and explosive weaponry, as well as the associated deflections. So this one, it looks like it's based on the specials, and that's on the next page, but it looks like this one is built to run with an Onslaught MSC fleet.
Yep. It's both a pleasant hull and a most disappointing hull at the same time. From what I've seen and looked into, it's only been brief. This thing may die rather quickly, but it gives you a rather nice boost to your missile cruisers and your onslaughts. So it'll be an interesting one to test, but it's both a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah, I've heard and seen discussion today where folks were, this could be a tank, or it could be held, could be held back to stay alive longer. There are a couple of options for this one. Build time on this one is 6 days and 19 hours. That's the non-friend rate. I'm sure it's less if you've got officers. 2.3 armor points are pretty standard now for the Conquerors that are coming out. We're also seeing the standard pass-through amounts for the 360. This one does have a built-in tactical field resistance as well, and it's also got the explosive and penetrative deflection. And then here is the second page to the hull. And I just want to note here, I had this circled. It was marked as 3 hours repair originally. That has been corrected. It is actually only the standard 30 minutes repair. I just did not get a chance to change the slides prior to the show. But so yes, in game, it is already reflecting that change. And you want to take a look at the special abilities here. Bonus effect applied to each onslaught or missile cruiser in the fleet. So again, pairs well with the onslaught and the storm missile cruiser. It's got a duplicate or a cap of 1. Range is 75 on this, so can't leave this hanging out way out in the base. It does need to be somewhat nearby the rest of the ships. It is adding additional explosive deflection and penetrative deflection, and it is giving that explosive and penetrative boost of plus 35.
The deflections seem rather low for a boost, especially when we're talking about deflections needing to be over 1 million and 2 million values. 70,000 each ship's rather small, but again, the damages kind of bring it back up again. It is rather nice when you start adding up.
So your thoughts on this? You think this is worth a build?
It's certainly worth testing, and testing's going to be the final judge on it. My view is yes, it can boost a good missile cruiser and onslaught fleet rather significantly, but again, from the statistics I've been looking into, it might die quite quickly. That's my only concern with it.
Yeah, I guess it's you're either going to tank with it or park it behind, and if you park it behind, it's not giving, like, other than the deflections, it's not really applying any other defense boosts to it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the Poseidon's Mauler. That one, of course, is available as well as one of the top prizes. And so let's just, before we jump into the prize list, and it's a long prize list, I just wanted to touch on this a little bit. And I see this time and time again on comms where somebody will have like 10 or 15 million points where they could get a really good hull to help them in key pieces of the game, but then they're, I bought the XYZ turret and the the ABC turret. And so just to reiterate, the FM is the priority. The FM is where you get your build tokens to speed up, and even if you got the absolute minimum tokens each month, you're looking at about 18 days of build time saved each month. So you want to make sure that you can get to all of the chests within the FM. We know that the FM is changing. The 117, of course, has come in, which is brutal. The new 112, which came in, the 115s are gone, I think, as of now. So those are going to be away. You want to take a look at, what you want is not always what you need. So if you don't have the dragon and you can get it, get it. You want to make sure that you're able to get resources. If you don't have fleets to be able to do these other things, there are ships that are available in the raid to help you along there. And it doesn't do any good to get the newest badass turret for your base if you don't have fleets for the core parts of the game.
Yep, and just to get on that, there's not much point in getting a really expensive PvP hull if you can't get the nice armors and stuff that are only given in the FM. You really need to be working in the FM before you get anything else.
Yeah, and I know it can seem like an uphill task and it can seem very frustrating, but if you can get to that point where you are able to stay on top of your FM and move on to the other areas, it does get a lot easier. Okay, so let's take a look at the prizes and the price lists. And I will apologize. I had to jerry rig the slides so they're not their normal standard, but unfortunately the price list didn't come out until not too early before the show, so we didn't have a whole lot of time to put this together. But top prizes, of course, we've got the Manticore 60 million. That's rather expensive.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Then we've got the Poseidon's Mauler, which itself is also 60 million. And then for those of you that have not participated in Bounty or were not able to get it, the Missile Storm Cruiser, you can now redeem 5. That's been upped, and they're at 5 million each as well.
Yep, the missile cruiser is a great deal. Even if you only get one,
Yep.
one is great with slots.
One on its own was great for the opponent bases in Bounty.
Yep, yep, it's very, very good hull to have. I'm just disappointed that the 2 other hulls are so very expensive, and it greatly outprices probably most people that cannot do the top sets.
And I think someone worked it out, and I saw it bandied about as I was looking before I jumped on the show. I think it's 120 million for the Manticore, the special, the weapon, and the CIC.
Yeah, you're looking at about 180 million for everything that's new. And that's just the new stuff. That's before you include the missile, storm cruiser, etc. It's just the new stuff.
Yep. And so that's a pretty high amount. I am hopeful, and of course that they do the testing, and we ask them to test the lower targets. I'm hopeful that the lower targets for the first assault raid will be manageable. They did a really good job with the siege raid, where people could use their ironclads and their canoes to go out there and farm points. I'm hopeful that we'll see the same functionality and really good thought behind the targets that went into the siege ones for the assault cycle. So those that do have their, almost built Skyfires or their Phoenixes, if they're behind or if they're a lower level to where those will be able to hit those targets.
Yep, hopefully they haven't touched them. Let's just leave the lower targets, please. Let the people who can't do the higher targets at least have something easy to do.
Yep. Yep. So again, very high cost for the Manticore. The Poseidon's Mauler, I mean, that's somewhat expected. It is a flagship hull, and we're used to seeing those a little higher up. Missile Storm Cruiser, 5 million each. If you did not get any in the Bounty, even these even help out somewhat in guard fleets against some of the other hulls, if you can get some of those. Okay, that was the top prizes. Moving on to the PVE Hull Prizes. These are the hulls that you use against the map targets. And of course, there is the Inferno Dragon for the FM, still 15 million. I was a little surprised. I thought that might have dropped a little bit. I would not purchase the Gridiron's Monolith. Please don't ever do that. You're better off using the Zealouses and the Monos for that if you're going that route. We've got the Vasigo's Icebreaker in there. We've got the Phoenix still in there. We've got the Gutspill's Phoenix in there. So for 10 million there, that would give you the flag as well as the BP for the rest of the Phoenix. Same thing for the Skyfire Carrier and the Gutspill Skyfire. So if you do not have any fleets and you're not going to be able to get the higher, newer fleets, there's those options that are there. Savage Kodiak, want to bring this up. People are using the Savage Kodiak, and this is one that has not been out for, 3 or 4 years or a couple of years, I don't think. The Savage Kodiak is a flagship that gives a penetrative defense buff to the whole fleet, even if it's parked in the corner. So if you don't have it and you can get the points, this is something that you could use for your FM fleet until we see the flag for the Infernal Dragon.
Yep, it's definitely a must-have. Even if you just build it blank, which I'd say most people have one blank, just stick it in with your FM fleet, put it into a corner and drive the rest of your fleet normally. It makes a massive difference. Massive. I think it worked out something like half, if not 3 times, the damage without the Savage Kodiak. So definitely get it if you can.
Yep. And there are ways for you to use that, and so that it doesn't charge into battle. Of course, one of them is to just put a counter on it so it's got nothing to target and it doesn't move. But you can also go ahead and put one one of the plate armors that's on there that actually reduces the speed by 50%. And then as you're driving, you can do the select all and then shift one on the upper keypad, which will deselect that ship as well, which makes it a lot easier. And then, of course, there's macros that you can use that we also have out on the website. So, if you don't have it, get it. That's the one thing I never scrap is flagships, especially when they're flagships that provide multiple bonuses or bonuses across the whole fleet like that one does.
Yep.
Of course, we've got the Buccaneer Spoon and the Buccaneer. I'm hopeful that anybody who plays the game for more than once every 3 weeks should already have this because of the really cool TLC that Kix put out, where they made that available and easy for everybody to get that.
Yep. I would say that anyone who does have Buccaneer fleet built and doesn't have the boon, please, for the love of goodness, get the boon. You can take a fleet that does the top tier target down from 3 coin down to 1. So it's probably the best ship that you get for doing a siege target at the moment.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. And then the other item that's in here is Dante's Novastorm. Now, Dante kind of behaves the same way that the Savage does, but that's for explosive, correct?
I'm just checking at the moment. I think it might be one that takes damage to give out the boost.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's trigger 500 armor points and it gives you a boost, but there is also a boost of explosive defense, like the Savage Kodiak as well.
Yep. So that applies for the whole fleet. So, okay, cool. All right. So that was the first page of the PVE hulls. Moving on to the second page, we've got the Onslaught available, of course, as well for 5 million. That limit is also 5. We still have the King's Ritz at 4 million. Twin Blade is still out there. Brennus Unstoppable Sloth at only 4 million. I'm not sure why that has a limit of 5 because that is a flag.
Might as well have some prep fleets with it.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might be a typo. Also, we have Hopes. You can hold up to 5 of them. Those are still viable in base defense. A Phantom Gluttony is again out, and that price at 2 million is a steal because the Phantom Gluttony fleet with the Sinfil Scattergun, which is also available in the raid, works really well still on a lot of the opponent bases for bounty.
Is that an additional Phantom Gluttony, or can you not claim it if you already have one? Because I know
When
that
they
you could
released
have
it,
2.
yeah, when they released it last time, they upped the amount that you could have to 2 halfway through the raid. I don't think, and at least I'm not expecting that now you can have 3, but I know that you were allowed to have 2.
I'll just check that and get back to you on that one.
Yeah. We've got the sloths in there for 4 million. Vanquishers, if you have not seen the bases with all of the vanquishers in there that people are using. Oh, Laredo is just saying that the bus count is correct. Interesting.
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
Like 5 prep fleets then.
five prep fleets. Yep. Yeah. You certainly can't put 5 of them in the same fleet. Vanquishers, again, people are using those. Those are still working really well. That's another one older hull that has kind of come back to life with the way that the new fleets are working. So if you don't have the Vanquishers, this is an opportunity for you to get that. And then, of course, we've got the Inquisitor in there as well.
The only thing that I really don't see much use with is the Twin Blade. Everything else seems like it has a decent use in the game, but they've kind of let the Twin Blade slip down a bit. There's really not much use for it anymore.
Yep. Okay. Moving on to the PVE component prizes. Now, there are a lot of these. Of course, we've got the new guys, the Roaring Barrel system, that's a 15 million hit, and then the Scattergun, the new weapon, at 25 million. So there's 40 million right there just for the special and the weapon. The Savage, Savage CIC is another 20 million.
They seem to have kept the prices of the special and the weapon, but we've now got the additional CICs coming in, which is an additional price, but they haven't seemed to counter or add everything up to be the standards of what we've seen in the past. So it just seems like we're paying more for hulls now than we were in the past.
Yeah, and that topped with the 60 million hull price is a pretty steep hull to climb. But at least we don't have a million charged armors we have to get. We've got the RFX engine that's at 6 million. That, of course, is the engine for the Inferno Dragon for the FM fleet. It gives a whole lot of speed as well as I think it's rocket reload. So that's a good buy. And then, of course, the twin fire rocket itself at 9 million, also for the Inferno Dragon FM fleet. Combat Mort 01U, that's kind of for the monoliths. Where I think everybody's using the D85, so I'm not sure that's a good buy. We've got the siege rockets, D100S, which are for the icebreakers, and then we've got the garrison battery, which also gives the explosive damage on top of the defense for turrets. Harrier missile D52, we've not seen that for a little while. Talon missiles, that of course was for the Phoenix. And then we've got the Switchblade anti-missile that's in there as well.
Yeah, again, if you cannot get the FM items and the new raid items, drop the new raid items, just get the FM stuff. There's a TLC coming where you can get a different set of raid items, so don't worry too much about them. Focus on FM.
Yep. Moving on to the next PVE components, we've got Phalanx 3 through 1. I think it's been a while since we've seen 3, isn't it?
I think 3's in FM and 1's in FM, but not 2.
2. I knew one of them was missing. Yeah, so happy to see the Phalanx 2 in there. Carbon fiber casing, that of course works really well with missile hulls. Interception system for 400,000. The newer one is in the FM. Penetrative upgrade, corrosive upgrade. Those are the standard little, I think it's like 10% ones that get put up in there. Siege battery 4. I think this is the first time that we have seen this one outside of Tech Up, correct? Or the TLCs?
I think so, yeah.
Yep. So if you've did not do the TLCs, that's a really good buy. Evade upgrade, of course, is in there. And then countermeasure loaders 4, that's another one that came in through Tech Up.
Both countermeasures 4 and the siege battery 4 are very good buys, especially for that price.
Okay.
There's also the Evade upgrade in there as well. We haven't seen a Evade upgrade for a very long time. Yep,
it's been a while since we've seen that. Moving on to the next page, barrel system 1, 2, and 3 is there. Siege targeting 1, 2, and that's interesting. 1, 2, and 4. Siege targeting, that's 4. That was another one that was in Tech Up. Hydroxide injector is in there. The anti-missile proliferation system. Speed 6.
Yay.
Yes, another Tech Up item. Very, very happy to see that. There were a lot of people that did not get that. You could get it from, I think it was some of the hulls that they had for sale, kind of like the fleet combos, but really glad to see Speed System 6 in there. And of course, they've got 1 through 6. Agility System 4 is also in there. You're allowed 5 of those. Those are the ones that give the evade and stun resist, and are always a good buy if you've got extra points.
Yep.
Then we've got Zinthonite D4E and D3E. Bandit Hornet, that's something that hasn't been around for a while, as well as the UAV Power Cell.
Standard.
Yep. Okay. Yet even more PVE components. Countermeasure equipment 1 through 3. We've got the UAV targeting circuitry, the compressed corrosion canisters. And here's a good one, narrowed firing aperture. This is one that is used a lot in Conqueror fleets for base hitting, depending on the hull. We've also got the mass augmentation nexus. Of course, that is the special for the Buccaneer fleet. The peak accelerator cannon, I think that one's actually in the FM. I can talk. Nautilus Battery 4. That's the other tech up item that we haven't seen. So really happy to see that. Stealth Attack System 5. That's the other one that was also in tech up. Magnus Drive 3. I know there were a lot of people that have been looking for this one. This one adds a lot of speed. You don't have the turn, but it does add a lot of speed to your fleet, and people are using that in all sorts of different combinations.
Yeah. I'm so very happy to put countermeasure equipment in there as well, because that's one that hasn't been out for a very long time, and it's so very needed, uh, especially in your base defense now that we've got so many morts coming in. So it's probably one of the nicest things I've actually seen in this raid.
Yep. We've also got Gale systems, and not just Gale systems, but Gale systems 1 through 3 and 10 of each.
It's very nice.
Yes, so I know a lot of people were looking for Gale 2s because they are lighter. So those work really well on fleets as well.
Is it a misprint that they're all the same price?
Not sure.
It's a bit odd that they're all the same price, but it's okay.
Well, okay, PvP component prizes. Siege Missile D55X, that of course is the spicy missile that goes with the Missile Storm Cruiser. The 2X Q Mortar that came out with the Onslaught. Precision Missile System that came out with the Storm Cruiser. High Explosive Shells 4, that came out with the Onslaught in Bounty. Thermobaric Casing 4, that's the one for explosive hits underwater, correct?
Yes, it is, yeah.
We've also got the Excalibur Gatling gun. I believe that was for the RIT. Vulcanized barrels also for the RIT. Clipper missiles that came out with the Twin Blade. Aft razor foils that also came out with the Twin Blade. Let me see what else we got on here. We got some mortars. Mission generator is out there. Polonium thrower and polonium accelerator and the radon breeder, which if you have a mega or you're just starting your mega, those work really well on the drones for the megas.
Just to correct myself, thermobaric shells is not the one that hits underwater. It's hydrodynamic shells that hits underwater.
Oh, okay. Oh, extra missile turret damage. Thank you, Brian. Sorry about that. Whole lot of things on the list. So what are your thoughts on those?
The 2Q Mort and the Siege D55X missile are probably the most important weapons you can get for your Conqueror fleets at this time, especially with the turrets doing so much damage. You really need them. It's a really big buff.
Yep, that's a really good points. Okay, moving on to the next page. We've got, it's interesting because this one's in PvP, but Autoloader 4, that was another one that was in Tech Up. Flail rockets, those of course are for the Hope. Flanged warhead, that's the special for the rockets. Sinful Scattergun works on the Inquisitors, the Eviscerator, and Gluttonies. Is that the only 3, or is there another?
I think that might be the only 3. No, I think it is the only 3 that
Okay.
fit on.
Buzzard Missile, we haven't seen that one for a while. The UTT Transformer is in there. And we've got the Executioner too. And as somebody pointed out in chat, there's a limit of 4. I'm not sure if that is a typo or if that is truly 4. And I don't see Laredo in there.
That is not a typo. It is actually 4.
Okay.
So you can have a maximum of a 6 tier 7 bonus now.
Yes, that's a really good point. So each one of those adds bonus amounts to the damage for those. Glacial launcher turret. It's been a long time since we've seen this. Not a huge amount of damage, but this is the one that spews out the ice pellets that slows fleets down.
Very handy.
Yeah, still only a limit of 1 though. Radium reserves for your radioactive turret. So elite countermeasure turret and the cannibal Wendigo. Both of these are limited. Total amount is 5.
I like the price of them, but still they cost way too much to build.
time-wise, yeah, they're what is
Yeah.
it, 13 days even with full base parts?
Yeah, 13 to 16, I think it is.
Yeah.
So if anyone is looking at it saying this looks quite good, just remember it is a very long build time.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I have liked with the two new. We had the Howie came out and the Executioner came out, and those were pretty much instant build with full base parts.
Yep. I think there's just put the older turrets behind them now, but they really need to bring at least the countermeasure turret down dramatically in time, because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, really, really like to see a reduction in those. We also have the EM rails 1 through 3. EM rails is for the ballistic and Howies, correct?
Yes. I wouldn't bother with EM Rails 2 or 1. Just get the third one. I don't think there's any point in having the second or the first one.
Yeah, that's the 300% crit hit, right?
Yeah, it's 100, then 200, then 300.
Yep.
The only one you really want is the 300%.
Yep.
Don't really
Okay. A lot of good base and defense stuff there. Tokens. This is interesting. I didn't actually have a whole lot of time to go through this. So we've got the standard 1 hour, 12 hour, and 24 hours. It looks like those didn't change. Of course, we've got the base parts, titanium and U, if you wish to go ahead and purchase those. New tokens for assault class. We've got 10 of them. So again, this is the first assault target where it's class specific, not hull specific. So really happy to see this. So we've got 10 days worth of assault class tokens there for the Manticore. We've got Phoenix tokens in there as well if you need to finish your fleet. Of course, those will only work on the Phoenix, not on the Gut Spill. We've got VXP for the Phoenix. We've also got tokens for the Skyfire as well as VXP tokens. Again, structure build tokens. We've got 5 2-day ones. You cannot stress this enough. If you're behind, grab these and please upgrade your shipyard.
Yep.
Then we've got Hope VXP tokens, and then 5 days of full 1-day Hope build tokens. Also got some King's Writ tokens and VXP. And then we've got medium defender class VXP tokens. Not really like it. What's the medium? Is the medium 10,000?
It's either 10 or 15.
10 or 15. I hope this is not a message for we're not going to get the 10K tokens from the VXP targets.
Yeah, please don't do.
Yeah.
Don't take them away from us. We need
Yeah,
them.
yeah. That's something that we all look forward to. And for those that don't know, if you finish the VXP targets, in the past, we've been awarded the 10K Defender. Is it 10K? Yeah, 10K Defender VXP token.
Yeah. The only thing I wish was there was actually Conquer VXP tokens. I know you can get them from going through your Mega, but it is something that would be rather nice to have, especially when you have Bounty and then a long gap before there's any VXP weekends again. So it's just one class of token that's missing. But the Assault class build token is very nice. Very, very nice indeed.
Yes, if you can't get the Manticore and you are finishing up a Phoenix or a Skyfire, that means that you can buy the Phoenix or Skyfire tokens and the Assault class tokens and knock 20 days off.
Yep. Or if you do get Manticore, you can at least speed it up a little bit to get at least blank hulls out for VXP.
Yes. What was it? 5 days or 6 days on the hull, right?
About 4.5 days.
4.5 days. So 20 days worth of build, week plus how many tokens, plus if you saved your FM tokens and saved your chests. So, okay, last but not least on the prize list, we have shards. We got Proto Nemesis, Hellstar, Ghost Crawlers, Man of Wars, Gamma, Behemoth. Not sure they're really good. And then we've got the Cadiz shards. I think the Cadiz is still a viable hull because of the way that it gets titanium, and it will be interesting to see how that hull works in the upcoming raid. But for the rest of them, if you're a collector and you really want one, go right ahead.
they really should just, instead of having 5 shards for the Proto Nemesis, Hellstar, etc., they should really be giving us all of the tokens at this point, because there's really not a use in all but 2 of those. The rest, the rest are just pointless, just a thing to have.
I did work hard to get my ghost crawler out, and I keep hearing things have been said in the past where they've talked about reworking the capital hulls, and I would like to see that because I love my ghost crawler. But right now, I think the only thing I use it for is I drag it out to pop orange.
I think if they rework the Man of War, I think Mark might have a breakdown.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay. So a lot of prizes. Overall thoughts?
There's quite a lot of prizes, yes, but in relative speaking, there's only a few that would be rather handy to have. And then there's just a really overpriced hull. Like, there was no need to give us 2 hulls at 60 million, and then have 2 specials and a weapon for the raid hull, both at really high prices. I think it's just a little bit overpriced. I wouldn't say it's overpriced for the top tier targets, but the lower tier targets, I don't think anyone's going to get terribly close with the lower tier targets at all. And those who need it most are the ones hitting the lower tier targets. It just seems to make it a little bit harder to progress for the lower end, and it's almost like punishing them, to be honest. Um, the people at the top don't really have much of an issue, and will sort of stay there. It's just getting there is going to be a pain.
Yeah, really, really
Right
good
around it.
points. Yeah. The one thing I think the big positive to take away from this, if nothing else, other than what you've already talked about, is that if you did not finish tech up, there is key pieces of or key components that are in there that are from tech up. You know, Magnus 3, Nautilus 4, Speed System 6, the Siege battery and Siege targeting. Those are things that are used throughout multiple builds, whether it be Conqueror or chore fleet builds, FM, you know, that kind of stuff. So those are things that you really want to take a look at if you did not or could not get those in the past. So very happy, and a big thumbs up to Kix for putting those in there. I'm very happy to see that.
Yep, certainly. Again, there is plenty of stuff in there, and I think they've done a good job at picking through what we actually need and giving it to us this time. So it is definitely a big thumbs up to them.
Yeah, it's definitely geared towards the next cycle. There's a lot of really good things in there for the next cycle, even if you can't get the higher stuff. And I was very happy to see some of the. I'm happy to see the extra XEs, EXE2s, and also happy to see some of the older turret specials come out.
Yep, definitely. It looks like it will be pretty good raid for most people then.
Yep, I think so. Okay, so you know, again, raid starts tomorrow. If you've not done so, make sure you stock up on your titanium and your uranium and base parts, and start any longer builds that you want to in the Conqueror yard, so that you're not sitting there finishing second day in and then, you know, using up all of your titanium. Again, you can use the expeditions, but you know, take 2 or 3 days for that. I can't think of anything else. Do you have anything else you want to bring up, Phantom?
Just on the boon again, please only repair your boon. It'll save you quite a lot more. Again, 3 coins going down to 1 coin, definitely worth it. So just heal your boon, saves you a lot.
Yep, that's a really good point. And you can even to expand on that, if you end up jumping out of the target before your boon heals your fleet up to 75%, go jump in a cargo and sit in the corner and let it heal it to 75, then kill that, and then go repair the boon.
Yep, Very helpful.
Okay. Well, David, thank you so very much for joining me tonight. I apologise that we were short with not the usual suspects, but real life obviously always comes first. And good luck to everybody in the raid. And then we'll see you on Saturday for Saturday's open mic.
Good luck to everyone in the raid, and thanks for having me.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.